Hello, Dental A Team listeners. This is Kira Dent, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for being part of my Dental A Team family. I seriously love doing this podcast. I thought I was going to hate it, and I love it. I love it so much because I get to connect with you. I get to hear how this podcast is helping you and your practice be better. So if you have loved this podcast and you are willing to share, I would greatly appreciate if you'll share with your friends, if you'll leave us a review, if you'll give us 5 stars, anything you can do. Just like you guys grow your practices, we're trying to grow this podcast to positively impact the world of dental. This is how we get to grow our Dental A Team family. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to the Dental A Team podcast. We're your hosts, Kira Dent
and Dr. Mark Costas.
Mark and I had this crazy idea that maybe we could combine a dentist and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. And Dental A Team podcast was created.
I'm a practicing dentist, a multiple practice owner, a dental performance coach, and the founder of the Dental Success Institute.
I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, office manager, current practice owner, and international dental consultant. Mark and I don't just understand you, we are you.
Our goal is to positively impact the world of dentistry by sharing our lessons learned from the road in hundreds of dental offices.
2 perspectives, 1 mission, to help dental professionals reach their full potential. Welcome to the Dental A Team podcast. Hello, Dental A Team listeners. This is Kira Dent, and you guys, this is stardom status for me. I am so excited to share with you one of my favorite people. I have 2 guests on the line, and you guys, this is epic. This is me stardom status. I can't believe I convinced Paul Goodman to get on the Dental A Team podcast with Ariel. These 2 are rock stars. I met them in Philly. I obviously had met Paul before and Ariel before, but I went to their event with Mark Costas in Philly a couple weeks ago. You guys heard the podcast on that. And now, stardom status, they are on the call. So Paul and Ariel, how are you today?
Doing awesome, Kira. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Yes, Ariel, welcome. You guys, when I just gave that intro, I am not kidding. I am stardom status. I am so excited. You guys you're just people that are fun. You have this incredible group of people that follow you. And Paul, you always drop really funny nacho jokes. So I'm excited to have that pop out. So guys, how's Philly today?
Thank you. So 2 things, Kara. First, we should do this every day since you're so nice. And second, my grandmother would have loved you and all the nice things you say about me. So thanks.
You're so welcome. Speaking of grandmas, I don't know if you guys saw the post, but my grandma, I think she's 86. Don't repeat that. I don't know her actual age. I just posted about it. She just subscribed to our Dental A Team podcast. She was the most recent subscriber because she said, Kira, I don't ever know your life, so I'm going to download your podcast so I know at least what you're doing.
I think that's really awesome. I think we can, you've got a really cool grandmother. I would say my grandmother, who was both my grandmothers I was very close with, of course, she passed away when she was 90. She had a cell phone and she could, press a few buttons to call us. And I just thought that was cool. But what I think, Kira and Ariel, is we think of this as normal for us, but what's going to be that version when we're 80 or 90, right? Where, your grandmother wouldn't be able to fathom that she could listen to her granddaughter share her life, which I just think is so cool. And one thing that I did recently, just on Father's Day, is I created a secret Facebook group for our family because I'm starting to put pictures in there and videos, because one of the things I worry about is how am I going to share all this with my daughters when they're, 25 years old? Mm-hmm. Because, you have pictures on your phone, but we even have that phone, right?
Right.
People look in the cloud at their pictures, but they take thousands of pictures in a month, right? So I'm putting some key messages and stuff, and I just started that. So I think your grandmother's awesome, and I'm going to send my podcast to my aunt now. So thanks. Good suggestion, Kira.
Yeah, absolutely. Ariel, get your grandma in, whomever you need. Guys, let's just go for it. I love that. And I love that idea because you're right. Preserving what we're doing. I think about that all the time. Even just using silly things, Paul, I don't know if you're this way because Ariel, I'm sure you're totally hip and millennial and you don't even have these problems that Paul and I face. But there's even certain things that Kaylee, my CEO of the company, she'll say, oh, Kira, just get it on this. And I'm like, what is that? And I'm like, I'm so old already. What is going on? So,
I told you that happens to me all the time. I call me the technology toddler of dental nachos. Ariel and Farah help keep me in line with stuff. But I think, I love recording things in Philadelphia. Next time you come here, you have to go to the American Revolution Museum, because it's, the story of how the country was founded, and it's just amazing. And I'm always just so impressed how they recorded all these things, back in, 1776. And I think to myself, how can I do that? And one of the things I know people think I'm a little unique for how often I post on Facebook and Dental Nachos, but one of the whys, and I always talk about, explaining the why, is I think of it like my journal, right? So, I have a thought, I want to post it, I want to share it. And, when you go back in Facebook groups, and you'll see whether it's the great group Mark has or Dental Nachos or some of the others, it's relatively easy to look at posts from 2017, 2018, and you can really kind of understand this story. So I think we're really lucky to be living in this time where we can do that.
Oh, I definitely agree. And I love that you said that, because a lot of times I think of posting on Facebook as, it's just another thing I need to do. But I love that spin of, that is my life. It's a documented journal of my entire life, of where I am and what I've been doing and who I've been around. And I also love watching the evolution of people. I think back to who I was a few years ago and who I was before that, and watching people evolve and emerge in common patterns and themes in my life and in other people's lives, because I think you can learn so much from going back and journaling. So great perspective. And I will definitely hit that place up the next time I'm in Philly. I loved Philly. It was just a magical town. It was fun where you guys were at. And it was fun. I loved every minute of being there. So thank you again for having me. Loved it. And you guys just did a fantastic job of putting that event on. And
our pleasure is so good. And I've given, been lucky to give, I guess, maybe thousands of lectures and plan so many meetings. And I love Not Ordinary Things. I have to compliment you and Mark, because I have some great photos, and I think you should, Ariel could share them with your paper airplane thing. So great. And now we're using it all the time, because that's so much, so sticky and so much glue for people to remember, those are the paper airplane people. And I just thought that was such a fun exercise.
Well, thank you. I was definitely a little scared. I told Mark, I know Paul reasonably well, but I don't know how he'll do with these paper airplanes. And then I just looked at him. I said, we're doing it. We're going to just do it.
Anything to guide dentists out of their comfort zone gently and make them be a little bit more fun and normal is something I'm all for. So thanks for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, guys. So Paul and Ariel are awesome, and they have incredible resources. I love their content. So today we're going to dive into kind of the challenges facing new dentists and buying and selling new practices. So Paul, tell us kind of a little bit about that, because this is your wheelhouse. This is what you do. This is what you coach dentists on. And I think you are one of the experts in this field. So, and Ariel, you're just fantastic. You haven't chimed in a ton on this podcast yet, but we're going to pull you into this, because I feel that the team members and the people that work right alongside of us are so brilliant, and you have so many insights that all of us on the Dental A team can learn from. So Paul, kind of lead us through what you guys do and some of the challenges you see with these new dentists and buying and selling practices.
Oh, sure. And Ariel has a lot that she can contribute, because we work side by side doing this. But I always like to kind of start with a quote that I not necessarily came up with a concept, and my good friend, dental focus attorney Rob Montgomery, and podcast partner Dental Amigos talked about, dental offices and practices are people places. They're not pizza places, right? So, when people are looking to acquire a practice, buy a practice, their dream in life, arguably the most important decision of their entire life, they want to talk with you about the numbers and what's the collections and all the great things that Mark and his team do and you do with numbers. But what I like to share with my buyer coaching clients is it's really about people and understanding the story. Because if you go to your favorite restaurant and they change the chef, you might not know. But if they change the dentist at a restaurant, that's what people identify the whole practice with. So our goal is to help dentists manage this huge life transition. And most importantly, here, I always think people need this type of person in their life, is just to be like, does this idea make sense? Is this a good idea? When I'm looking at this practice, my wife, my family say it's not good. Do you think it's good, or vice versa? So we're able to kind of be this objective party to guide them. And it's amazing. I know you have a lot of listeners and many team members who work in a dental practice. But I'd like to start off, and Ariel can share, is that we go to dental school for 4 years, Kira, 4 long years, right? They teach us many things, the Krebs cycle, how to make mediocre bite rims, how to, drill on plastic teeth. All arguably have some importance, but they don't teach us anything about how to purchase a practice. And Ariel does my intake calls, Facebook messages, and emails. And it's mind-boggling, scary, and problematic that dentists are just so unaware of how to go about buying a practice. And it's something that we just need to talk more about in our space.
I totally agree, because working at the dental college at Midwestern for 3 years, you guys learned that blue wax is way better than green wax. And if the blue wax is gone, heaven help us all, we're all done for. But like all these pieces, you're absolutely right, which are great. I feel that dental school teaches you how not to kill somebody and how to cut teeth really well. But then you walk out of dental school with that DMD or DDS, and then life happens. And so many people, I think, are afraid of this decision, like you were saying, Paul, that they go the associate route or they go the residency route. And I've talked with a lot of students, and they tell me, honestly, Kira, I don't feel confident buying a practice, so I'm just going to go the route that seems less scary. And I tell them, gosh, like, you just need to be a little more educated on these pieces, because I know so many of those dental students could be phenomenal owners if they had better guidance, like you were saying. But I will add like a little asterisk next to that guidance, because you're right. We ask our families, we ask our parents, but the reality is they haven't experienced hundreds and hundreds of buying, selling opportunities. They haven't researched the data like we do. And that's what I say when I go to coaching. I've seen 100 offices myself. I can tell you themes that are seen left and right across the board, because I've seen so much that my data has value behind it, because I've seen so many. And I think you guys are the exact same way. In that guidance, you've seen it 100 times. Ariel, I'm sure you hear all the questions that come through. So you guys can really sort of navigate much quicker, much more effectively and objectively, like you were saying.
Sure, I'll have Ariel walk us. I like stories. So, usually a dentist will reach out to us via Facebook and say, hey, I have this practice opportunity. I want you to give me some advice and feedback on it. And, just for your listeners, after this podcast, Kira, I will be changing clothes in a phone booth. They don't have phone booths anymore, but like Superman, and I'll be going to be a real dentist. And we do something called limited oral exams, PAs. Somebody comes in with a broken tooth or a tooth that's sensitive or something that bothers them, and we take an x-ray and we give them some feedback. So I've told Ariel to use that example, because people send us information on the practice, and we're there to do the limited oral exam and x-ray. But maybe Ariel can share some of her experiences of doing some of these intake calls and just sort of the mind frame of the dentist that we're talking to.
Absolutely. Ariel, I'd love to hear your input.
Yeah. So a lot of times people are just kind of clueless, and they're just looking for someone to help guide them, because they don't know where to start. And it is kind of scary that dental school doesn't teach you any of that, because it's one of your biggest life decisions. I mean, Paul compares it to more important than like picking out your spouse. A lot of after working with Paul for about a year now, I definitely can see how he's totally right in that aspect. And he's had some clients who haven't listened to him, and they've made like really terrible decisions, and they're like, wow, wish I would have listened to you.
Yeah, definitely. So what would you say coming in? So I'm a dental student. I'm calling you. I want to buy a practice. What are some of the common questions and answers you guys give them that would help guide them? Because I hate the fear mentality. You guys know that I'm like a massive passionate person for students and for educating and for giving value to people. And you guys are the exact same way. What are some of the common themes you guys have picked out of help and resources? If I was said dental student who knows nothing of buying a practice, how would you guide me in this process?
A couple of things, and Ariel can chime in, and she's nice to say this, but I think it's because I talk fast and I think fast. And, we try to record as many of our things on Zoom to give to our clients, but she always says 30 minutes with me is like 2 hours with a normal person. And it can be broken down in two ways, and Ariel really can help you understand us more. It's, do you have a practice on the table to look at, and we'll help you with that, or are you just starting the process? And, we've been getting more and more people, which I love, and it's not about our coaching services, but what we do in this world is really like personal training sessions. It's like people are not signing up for a whole year for this stuff. It's just they're purchasing a session. We talk for that session. They can purchase another session or not. It's clean, it's neat, it's easy for them to engage with us. But I'm getting more and more people, which I love, to just coach them on how to go about looking for a practice, behavior that's good, connecting with a bank. And Ariel can tell you a few things about those calls.
Yes, dive into that, because my students are calling me and they're like, Kira, what banks? Guys, I bought a practice 3 years ago. So I think things have changed. So what do you say? Like, how do you connect them? And I agree, Paul, you do talk quick. I do the same. I tell people, if you can listen to us on 2.5 or 3 times the speed, like, let me know. I'll send you a t-shirt.
Yeah, that's great.
So when it's more of a person looking, they just want guidance on the steps to actually take to start the process. A lot of the times it's where should they be looking? How should they go about looking? If Paul knows anyone in the area, specific brokers that they should be looking into, and all of that. And Paul's really good with connecting them to people in the area, but his main thing is just trying to get them out in their dental community to connect face to face, because that's how you could potentially meet an older doctor looking to sell the practice.
Absolutely. You're exactly right. They're retiring, and I do agree on that face to face.
Dentist, I don't know if you know my people, Kira, the dentist, but you work with them. Mm-hmm. Quite the negative type, right? If I was like, hey, man, it's sunny, like it could rain. I'm like, it's San Diego, it could snow. So a lot of, and I actually talk a lot about this, and I like to make a lot of jokes, but some of it is just very serious. And how dental school, it's 0 to 4 years old. I co-own a 4.5-year-old. I don't know if that's the right term for it, but I co-own a 4.5-year-old and a 9-month-old. So Mary and I are parents of them, and they're so impressionable. So dental students really are just treated, I believe, and trained with their brain, not their hand skills, not the wax skills, not the cutting of teeth skills. They're trained in a way that, I'll put it nicely, doesn't make sense, right? So It's not about creative thinking. It's not about connecting. So recently we had a buyer coaching client who was really great, but she was like, I can't find any practices. All the brokers stink, blah, 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 venting, which is okay. You can vent to me. And I said, how about this? Why don't you just pick an area where you want to potentially own a practice, make a resume and a letter, buy some cookies, go into every dental practice and just say, hi, my name is Dr. Ariel. I'm a dentist in the area, and this would say, and I would like to take your dentist out to lunch. And yes, it's a little unique. And some people are going to say, they're not, my dentist is not available. But if they say that, say I'll be in the area, and they take them out to lunch, let's say Chipotle to get nachos, and they just talk with them. And the key is, it's a lot like dating from the 90s. I mean, that dentist may not be selling his or her practice, but they may know someone who wants to sell their practice. Mm-hmm. And I can't tell you how many times these behind the scenes things work out so well. One of our close friends here, and he was on the event with you, Kira, Dr. Todd Fleischman is such an amazing guy. And, he and I are about the same age. And back in the olden days before Facebook and Instagram and podcast, he just showed up at a local study club every week as the youngest dentist. And that is actually how he got his amazing practice in Center City, Philadelphia. And he would say that he was lucky, but really he had great timing because he put himself in those scenarios. So the first thing we do is coach them how to get themselves out face to face, some things they can do in their area to look for something, go to a more local CE, start to connect with advisors like banks, or banks not necessarily advisor, but start to connect with banks. Interestingly, and maybe you see this, Kira, people feel bad for young dentists, so they should really capitalize on that, right? In the sense
Totally.
Where I don't know, when I'm at a party, no one even cares if I eat, right? No one's like, did you get enough food, Paul? They're like, we don't care about the dad. They care about my daughter a lot. They're hawking around her, seeing if she wants more cake, right? So if you're a young dentist, people really do feel for you. And I think you should just embrace that. And then if you put yourself in scenarios with medium aged, you might have heard me say it at the event here, but medium aged dentists are MADs, that's what that stands for. Mm-hmm. Seasoned aged dentists are SADs. So us older dentists or medium aged dentists, we really do want to look out for younger dentists, but I have to encourage the younger dentists or team members. Team members could be helping out their associate or dentist. They just got to get themselves out into a space where they can meet people because it's such a people thing before it becomes a numbers thing. So that's our first call of how we can help you find a practice, things that you could do, and then circle back to us. I give you an example. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to chime in on that I love that, because I think so often when people are going to buy a practice, and also team members, when you're looking for a job, like let's tie this into team members as well. But a lot of times, and I'm guilty of this myself, of do I really want it? Am I willing to put in the hustle for it? Because you're absolutely right, Paul. I say that the dental world is so teeny tiny. You will run into somebody that you know any place that you go, or somebody who knows somebody that you know. It's the smallest little circle of life that we all live in. And yet so many people don't want to just put themselves out there. And I know it's because we're afraid of rejection. As human beings, that's what we're always afraid of. But the reality is, when you start networking and you start talking to someone, they know people, they'll know places, and put yourself where you're set up for the most success. And so I love that you said that. The reality is, you might get 7 no's. When we were buying our first practice, the student that I bought with, she went to 10 different banks, and so many people told her no. They said, there's no way, you're a brand new grad. We're not going to finance you for 2.5 mil. Don't worry, guys. That was our first loan, 2.5 million out of dental school. And yet one bank said yes to us. And all you need is that one person who will sell that you like, the one person that will finance you. But the reality is, are you willing to hustle? Are you willing to put yourself out there? Are you willing to start talking to people? Because that's where people are at, Paul. It's not this magic diet pill that we're going to give you of like, here's the success. It's starting to network. And I love that there are so many resources that you just listed off that people can do for themselves without even having to engage a broker, without, like, these are things you can just do on your own if you're willing to try. And I thought that was some solid tips for people to do. And I think it ties to teams as well. When you're looking for another job or that perfect dream job, those are other ways you can do it as a team as well. But I want to hear your story. I want to hear your story.
You brought up a great point, because the other thing that we do is help people connect for jobs. Older dentists looking for younger dentists looking for a job. And I always tell them they have to invest in the process, not the outcome. Where that, it's not like a crown prep where you take a good impression, there's going to be a crown. It's not an exercise, networking, business development, that has a prescribed outcome. It's just you have to invest in doing it. And Ariel puts together our networking events, and I am a equal opportunity annoyer in life, and my team knows that. My wife knows that. I don't really have this thing. Like, I kind of treat everyone the same, but it's good and bad. I mean, it's good because I care about people, but it's also like I'm going to kindly annoy someone I just met in the same way I will my own Mrs. Nacho. She loves that name. Please call her that when you see her. But
you got it.
If I say to a young dentist, like, hey, come to our networking event, you might meet a more seasoned dentist to find a job. And they say, oh, I'm too busy, I don't want to come. I said, okay, I'm not going to look for you anymore. And they say, oh, I'm going to come. So you really have to, it's like a personal trainer. You have to come to the gym, show up, be ready to do it. And then, Ariel can tell you, because she does a great job with this, how many times do people say they don't want to come to something, then they come and they go, oh man, that was the best event I went to.
Pretty much every time.
I love that. So, and I love that you put it on them. They have to be committed to you. They have to be willing to show up. Otherwise, forget it. So, Ariel, and it's not forget it. I'm not putting it in those harsh of terms, but it really is. Are you willing to show up? Are you willing to do these things? Because you're right. It's the long-term game we're going for. And I also think that's, once again, the development of people. It's how bad do you really want this? Because I have found when people are so gunner, and Ariel, actually, I'm going to ask you this question, Ariel. What type of a personality or questions do people who are really, really intentional and they're going for it versus those that are kind of dabbling? Have you been able to pick up themes that you've been able to see of the two different buyers or the two different people looking for doctors? Like, what do you see as themes of these personalities? Have you picked up on any of those?
Yeah, I think the really motivated people, I do like the first initial intake call, which is complimentary. And I'll sit down and just kind of get their story, what they're looking for from Paul, and just find out a little bit more about them. And then I'll go over the options and I'll suggest what I think is best. And I think obviously the go-getters are people who just purchase without question, don't really have any hesitation. And then there's the group of people who are probably a little less motivated and just need you to kindly annoy them. So I'll follow up with them a few times and they end up moving forward. And then there's just the people that, were looking for help, but never really commit to any coaching. And I just feel like they're probably not as motivated as all of the others, or they just weren't ready at the time.
Sure. That's people. That's definitely those people. And I see it in offices too. I've got certain offices where I walk into them and they're just motivated. They're ready for change when I show up, and it's, hey, let's just take this on. Let's do this. And then there's other offices that are wildly resistant. Like, why did my doctor even call you? We don't want to change a single thing about our life. We just want to talk to you about ideas or complain. And then we're not going to do anything to change. And I think people in general, I don't know, Paul, what your thoughts are, and Ariel, but I found when either the pain or the change is so what they want, they've thought about it, they visualize it, they know where they're going, or the pain is so bad that they're like, I don't care what it'll take, I'm doing this. Those are the people that are ready to strike while the iron's hot, or the people, like you were saying, that kind of just need to be swayed one way or another, and they'll go for it. But I also see that personality trait and drive tends to trickle over into their practice once they've bought it.
I mean, you're 100% right. And what I share here is, like, I'm really into the process of decision making. I love thinking about it. I wish we trained dental students better and human beings better about decision making. I'm not the best decision maker in life, but I'm someone who thinks about it purposely, and I prioritize decisions. And Ariel made such a good point. The people who, hear the options for our coaching, which again, and because coaching and I've done all types of coaching, and there could be valuable ones, and we can talk about, as we move on, what I do after they buy the practice and how then I refer them to a Kira Dent or a Lisa Mergens. But in this regard, it's like we're someone who they run by one of their biggest life decisions. And I just think that dental school doesn't help them even understand how big a life decision this is. So if they said to me, hey, Paul, I want to get some coaching on whether I should buy A-deck chairs or Pelton and Crane, I'd be like, hey, that's not necessary. That's not something we coach about. Either one's going to be fine. So I'm a big fit person in life where it's like, if it's a decision that's not a priority, either one's going to be fine. Blue pens versus black pens, this upholstery versus another. But these practice things are things that really, I now say that I've seen it happen. It can ruin somebody's life. I mean, it can ruin their financial life. It can ruin their personal life. It can cause problems with their family, all by not making good decisions up front. So I have this thing, and we're going to try to do a segment coming up soon. We'll test that on you, Kira. Stories from Paul's phone. So Ariel helps me with my phone. And I'm a huge Mr. Rogers fan. I love the movie. I'm thrilled that I've created a type of person where people feel comfortable sharing information with me. I totally honor and respect that. I treat it responsibly, but I am pretty surprised, Ariel, that sometimes people will write me 27-sentence emails about their personal situation, and they've never met me, right?
Yeah.
So this dentist, and this dentist is awesome, and he goes, hey, Paul, remember when we were talking about that practice, but we never did any coaching? Well, I ignored you and many others, and I made an offer that was accepted, and after lots of negotiating, the seller backed out. So I'm now upset I put all this time and energy into it. What can I do better next time? So I love this dentist, attitude, because he's sort of saying, hey, I wish I could go back in time and run all of this by you before I've spent, Kira, you probably see it as us, I know you're probably a little younger than me, but we're medium-aged-ish. I know people who are 80 will be like, you're young, Paul and Kira, but people who are 20 will be like, you're not so young, right? So money is not money. I always say to people, it's just money. You can always make more when it's things like buying coaching or getting loops or trying a C course. I wouldn't say that about buying your first home or moving across the country. But I just think, unfortunately, that dental students and young dentists, and I totally understand, they're so worried about their debt. And they say, I don't want to spend an extra $500. I don't want to spend an extra $1,000. I don't want to invest $3,000 in new dentist boost camp, whatever. But I just tell them as passionately as I can that these are the type of things that either A, make you hundreds of thousands of dollars over your life, right? That's great. Or prevent you from losing hundreds of thousands, right? So, the stories from my phone just share the real deal of people who have dropped their nachos, Kira, or burnt their nachos. And it's just so important to run this by someone. And that's as we move into, the other thing is someone has a practice on the table and they send us the information. Ariel collects it. And I tell them if this is a good opportunity, a great opportunity, an okay opportunity, or run from it. And those I love doing. And Ariel sits in with me on those. And I know you probably could see, Ariel, people's mindset change over the 30 minutes that we talk.
Yes, they definitely change, whether it's from questioning it to being like, oh, why didn't I even think about it? Or some people honestly have really great opportunities in front of them. It just seems like they're a little scared to commit. So Paul kind of is just like, yeah, this is great. You should definitely go for it. And it's like, they just need that confirmation from someone who isn't as invested in the process. And that's where Paul helps a lot with that.
Well, yeah, I tell them they're paying me to be someone not emotionally invested in their life. And that's who you want, right? You know, exactly. You want an objective person. I mean, this happens in all walks of life, whether it's with therapists, whether it's with life coaches, whether it's even with your personal trainers, you know, and that's, you know, what I would like to point out. I mean, you just do such a phenomenal job in all the things you do, Kira, whether it's in person or your podcast or just your is that, you know, this is a lifelong journey, your career in dentisting. And if you look at anyone else, whether it's a professional athlete, someone who's a singer, someone who's a high-level business person, they'll tell you about all the coaching and feedback they've gotten along their journey to make them who they are. And I just wish, Kira, I could go somehow, maybe, you know, next year or the year after. I just need to get this into the mindset of first and second year dental students, so they think that it's normal, you know, right. And so they think that, you know, not like, oh, my friend told me this, or my one friend has a job that makes, you know, $400,000 a year. Where does he live? Like crushing it, Bill, USA, in the middle of the country. I'm like, no one knows where that is, right? So like, exactly. You know, I think, and it was actually at the Dental Success Summit last time, and Eric Cornelius, who's awesome at Cheryl, at the New Dentist Boost Camp, he said, Mark said on stage that dentists work on an island. And he goes, I think it's worse than that. Dentists work in a cave. And he's right. I mean, an island, at least you can see out and be like, is a boat ever coming to get me? Probably not. But in a cave, that's where I think the problem is, Karen. You probably see this in your life. You know, you kind of go into a dental office that has been working for, 20 years, and they haven't taken in any new information around them in those 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. All the time. And we
didn't mention this. I didn't know if I mentioned this. I forgot. Ariel also is a superhero herself, because she's also a dental hygienist. So, she has also the experience like you of being inside dental offices and working there, and probably working with Dental Nachos has given her a new perspective on some of those offices and the not so positive cultures that they had developed.
Totally. You're exactly right. And I think it's that I love the cave analogy is so good, because I think all of us feel like our problems and our challenges are all our own. And we're sometimes a little shy and a little embarrassed and a little naive to even voice this of, hey, is this it? So I actually want to kind of dive into this. I'm real big on tangibles. Sure. And so I'm curious, because this is what I've told students, and I would love you guys to critique, to add to, because this is my knowledge base. This is what I tell them. When people are going to buy a practice or they're looking for a practice, I say, number one, don't be emotional attached. So you can't be emotionally attached to it. Look at it for the facts. And that's so hard because you're so excited and it'll be your dream job. It'll be the dream location. So first of all, that's the coaching that I've given of don't be emotionally attached. And then next, I do say, kind of what are your goals from there? Are you looking more for a location? Is that what your eyes are set on? Or are you looking more for the lifestyle that you're looking for, or like a certain income that you're looking for? So is it location driven? Is it money driven? Is it lifestyle driven? What's the driving piece for it? And then from there, that's kind of where I trail off of like, well, start talking to brokers and start looking for financing. And, these are the pieces to get on the path. But I know I'm probably missing 7 steps in that process. Do you guys have any other pieces that would be really helpful for doctors listening that are looking to buy? For team members, you can also buy practices. You can help your doctors. You can be a part of a DSO. But are there other pieces that you guys add in that you'd be willing to share from my quick skeleton that could help somebody when they're trying to go through this process?
For sure. I mean, Ariel knows she does the intake stuff. One of the first questions we asked Ariel was like, tell us why you want this practice. Yeah. Tell us why you want this practice. And then we start to hear one of the things that you just said, Kira, which was great. Location right now is a big factor. And I totally understand that. So, I say the best thing you can do about buying, if you want to be successful in purchasing a practice, your number one skill right now would be geographic flexibility. So that, you're looking in a bigger pond. You say you could do the whole East Coast, right? The whole West Coast, all of Arizona. But I totally understand that dentists are in a challenging scenario. I mean, the world is much different than when my dad got out of dental school in the early 70s. And, people have spouses, it could be men or women, it could be, who are also successful, and they can't just pick up and leave their job and go to a good practice opportunity in Pittsburgh. Right. If you live in Texas. So I think dental students just have to start to understand the landscape of practice opportunities. But the things that you talked about are important, was just location. The more desirable it is to live, the more competition there's going to be for practices. So in Center City, Philadelphia, we have people, say to us, if I had a practice, I think I said this at this seminary, I'll tell you, if she posted Dr. Paul's House of Dentistry and Nachos for $1 million practice with $350,000 in profit is for sale in Center City, Philadelphia. I mean, how many people would be interested, Ariel, you think, in 2 days?
Probably every single dentist in Philadelphia.
Yeah. So, there'd be, 30 or 40 inquiries right away. So I say, so we have location, number of operatories is important. So think about this. Like, I'm starting out as a parent and I have a journey as a parent, and I have to take in information now and kind of say, what's this parenting journey going to look like? So you want to know why I'm not worried about my children using Instagram, Kira? I'm not worried about it at all. Oh, because by the time they're old enough, that'll be old news, right?
Right.
So I'm like, what is the, I was just on a golf trip with some great friends, and they have, teenage kids or early teenagers, and they're dealing with how to manage Instagram, right? Stuff my parents didn't have to deal with. So for dentistry, what is your journey going to look like over the next 25 years? And what are you going to have to be cognizant? So one of the things I point out is number of operatories is very important, because if you don't have enough operatories to produce, to see patients, not to annoy yourself. I mean, I have this practice here as 3 operatories, and it's our satellite practice. And sometimes I just want to walk in the waiting room and be like, open up your mouth, Mrs. Smith, let's take a look, right? Because I run out of space. So location, operatories, total collections. I mean, if you're a solo GP, you're going to look for total collections over $700,000. What I do think is funny is, and one of my catchphrases, and Ariel said this, is don't mess up on your first things in life. Practice, first practice, first house, first spouse, right? And I think that's good life advice. So, Mark, I know he likes to show off and, have like 8, 9 practices, and while he's doing 400 push-ups or burpees. But, if Mark Costas buys a 10th practice that doesn't go so well, it's not going to disrupt his entire life. But if someone buys their first practice doesn't go so well, it will. So I think that, your first practice, over $700,000 in collections, 5 operatories or more, and look at that location and say to yourself, if you're not married, that's fine, not being married, or your spouse, is this where I want to live for the next quarter of a century? Mm-hmm. Because that's an important part too. People will say, there's a great practice opportunity in, out there'sville, USA. And I say to the dentist, you might be out there, but you're going to be a solo practice owner. That's stressful. Running a team, I know you could say fairly stressful, right, Kira?
Not at all. Teams are super easy. Totally no big deal.
Yeah. My team's amazing. I got an amazing team. They're also amazing at crying, amazing criers sometimes. I think what's interesting, and I put that into it too, the team, and it's good to talk about that for a minute. Who's going to be there after you transition? Mm-hmm. What's their legacy there? Do they want to stay? Do you want them to stay? They've been working with this dentist for years. So that part I want to hear more about as well. And then, the net profit, because this is one thing that's a real tangible here for dental students, teens, young dentists. Very rarely, I mean never, does a dentist have a bank account that has $1 million in it and they buy the practice with that money. They have to ask someone for a favor, and that person's the bank, right? Mm-hmm. They have to ask a bank, hey bank, will you do me a solid and loan me this money? And if the profit cannot sustain that loan, it doesn't matter how much you like the dentistry's philosophy of occlusion. My philosophy, not high, by the way, but the dentist philosophy of occlusion. So you gave some great talking points, but location, number of operatories, what the team looks like, net profit, and the underlying part to it all. Can you replicate those procedures? I mean, Ariel, the offices that you've worked at, and basically basic general dentistry offices, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So can the dentist do that? If the dentist is trying to buy a practice that does a lot of sleep apnea and ortho, and they don't do that, they're not going to be able to replicate that when they buy it. So those are some good tangibles to take away for people as they begin thinking about this.
I love that so much, because I will just chime in on the a couple of things. One, if it's not profitable, it's just a hobby. It's not a job. So right. I think that was one of the best pieces of advice I was given. Kira, you want to own a business? If it's not profitable, you're just having a hobby out there. And so, like, being intentional, do you actually want to be a business owner too? There's a lot of pieces that come with that. Do you want to do that? And I would say yes. It drives me. It fires me up. I absolutely love being a business owner. But for some people, like, my husband, he said, Kara, I don't want to own a business. I want to hang up my coat at the end of the day. I don't want to stress like you do. I don't want my brain to never shut off about the business. He's like, I would love to go to dinner with you sometime and not talk about the business. And I'm like, oh, sweetie, you need somebody else. Then like it never shuts off.
I think that's important. And that you said a good point. And that's what we can help with on our coaching too. Just identifying what they want to do in their dental life. I mean, I have this thing Kara was talking about the other day, and I think we're just staring down a real crisis in our industry for practice owners and dentists we are finally coming to the point where 50% of women are practicing dentists. Awesome. Totally. Great awesome. Dentists. Probably more caring than men a lot of times.
We're gonna just put a plug, Paul, because you and I chatted about this at your event, because Summer Casmel and I in October, we're actually doing a Women Dentist Connect event awesome. In October in Arizona. So you guys should totally hop on over to that website, Women Dentist Connect, and also teams, female teams.
Everyone write that down, Women Dentist Connect, because we'll put that on nachos. But
yeah, because you're right. It's the female doctors.
How do you manage maternity leaves? How do you manage a lot of different things that happen in your circle of dentisting in real life? So, I think that as for what I wanted to touch on for a minute, and Ariel does this too. So when we do these buyer coaching calls, when people move forward, we connect them to multiple resources like attorneys, banks, consultants, dental focus accountants. But then after they buy the practice, Kara, and they've connected with us, they say, oh, can you still help us after the practice is after I acquire? I said, I will for 30 days, but then after that, you have to get somebody new. And I just think it's great that we can share people like you or Lisa Mergens or consultants. And what I'm really proud of, Kieran, I think you would agree, is that they get in the habit of utilizing coaches early. And I just think outside of money, it makes them what's more important, happier by not being annoyed. That's our catchphrase. Because, it's like, I'm sure this happens to you all the time, Kira. Like someone calls you up and they're freaking out. They're on the verge of tears. Can you believe this thing happened in my practice? Right. And you're like, oh, that happened to 5 of my clients yesterday. Don't get so upset. And that's just so valuable.
Right. It's that perspective, the angle that they don't have. And I love this because, Paul, I tell clients when they call and reach out to me of, hey, Kira, where do I start in this process? I say, hey, these are the pieces that I know, but usually I don't pop into your world until you basically have signed on the dotted line. And then from there, I take over teams. I can give you a little pre-workup about a month before you take over ownership. But the reality is that's not my strength. That's not what I want to do. And so I love, Paul, you and I have this very beautiful synergy, because the reality is, guys, buying a practice is one of the most stressful decisions. And I agree with you. I think it's more important than who you marry. That's like a real bold statement I just made. But the reality is you spend all your time there and it will suck the life out of you, and it can be so draining, or it can be the most amazing, exciting opportunity of your life. It just depends on those. I'm not a good researcher. I really hate researching things. I love to just pull the trigger, buy it. So Ariel, I'd be an awesome client because I'd be like, yep, sign me up. I'm done. Let's go. Let's move forward. But the bottom line is doing a little bit of research, I believe, especially in practice ownership, can really make or break like how quickly you can get to success, how happy you'll be on that journey. It's not always a guarantee, but I do agree with you, Paul, of the coaching piece. Guys, I have a coach. I have to have a coach. I need somebody who non-emotionally can see my life and how I can be better, because I get sick of swirling in little decisions that I don't know how to make, or I can't see the forest through the trees, and I need somebody who is not me, who's not my family, who's not emotionally attached to me, to just lay it down black and white for me of, Kira, this is what you need to do if you want X out of your life. And it's like, okay, I now can choose or not choose with that. And I'd say team members, same for you. A lot of times when I was a team member, I didn't even know where to go for coaching or how to do this. There are role models. Mark and I talked about mentors. Paul gives so much free advice on this on your Facebook group, on your podcast. Like, it is out there if you want it. But if you're like me and I need somebody to just hold my hand and walk me through it. And I know when I sign up for coaching, I am way more committed to that than I am doing it independently. That's my personality. So whomever you are, if this is a path for you, and I think we've gone through, like, how do you buy a practice? What are some of the key pieces to be looking at? When do you invest in coaching? When do you not invest in coaching? And then look at yourself. What type of a person are you? What do you need to be successful? Do you need someone to guide you through the process? Do you just need to listen to free advice and actually take it? Where are you at in this journey? Because I believe when you're willing to take action, and Paul, I'd love your insight on this, but when you're willing to take action and whatever your personality is, that's where the magic happens. That's where you are able to progress so much faster than you are on your own. and you're able to see the movement in your life. And I believe that progress equals happiness.
Oh, I love all that. And, I think, as you point out, a coach holds you accountable, doesn't let you off the hook, just like no matter what walk of life. And, Ariel knows that we describe ourselves as what the practice doula for these people. Mm-hmm. So Ariel doesn't have small humans in our house. She just goes home and does things like sleep and relax. I'm unfamiliar with that world here.
It's a pretty good world, Paul. I'm just going to throw it out there. Those 9-hour naps.
We had a doula for both our babies, and I don't know if people are out there, could be useful advice. They make sure when you bring the baby home, you don't break it. They stay with you for the first couple of weeks, and that's what we do, and they get you ready to have the baby. And then, you can bring in Akira as the full-time nanny type thing. And I'm just glad. And I saw my dad, he admittedly said that dentistry was nowhere near as complex when he was there when he was my age, towards the end of his life. And he was just an awesome dad and mentor, because he'd be like, yes, it's way more complex for you and your brother. We didn't even have computers in the office, right? We didn't even have websites. There was a joke. Y2K was that thing where all those computers were shut down. They asked my dad and his partner if they were ready for Y2K. They go, yeah, we are ready. Because they only had one of those in appointment books they erased with a pencil. So
that's insanity to me. I worked in an office that had that, and I was always like, what if you forget to erase this appointment? Like, how do you remember all these things?
But it's funny but that's going to happen to us. They're going to look back in 2019 and say, but I just am really happy with I'm really glad there's resources that are there for dentists to help them be happier and more profitable, because it's a long road by yourself or if you have a partner. And it's just your podcast is doing an amazing thing to just create awareness. It's a Rob Montgomery term of these resources for people, because, when you're in the cave, someone's going to come and help you and try to turn on a light or bring in a candle and show you what happens outside of that cave. And I kind of just think that's what it's all about.
I love that. I love that so much. You're absolutely right. And I appreciate you dropping a ton of nuggets. And I love surrounding myself with people that I believe are positively impacting the world of dental in whatever realm it is. We have the best profession, in my opinion. And I think that we can do so much good for people. Personally, myself, I had a dentist change my life, my smile, the different things. And that was a confidence builder for me. And I feel we live and we work in the very best profession. And so you're right, helping people find their resources. I had no clue. I don't know how these things. I've been looking for a coach for myself that's in the world I am in. And so I love to be able to share resources, to share ideas, because I believe that when we can collaborate, there's no cap at who can be at the top of the success ladder with us. It's not like we have a quota of 500 people and then everyone else is only on the second tier. No, there is no cap of how many people can be ultra successful, ultra beneficial to the community, super positively impacting the world. There is no cap. And so if we can share best of the best, help each other get to the top, I believe that that's the best way we can positively impact the world of dentistry and bless and benefit so many more lives in the world. So Paul, I think you guys and Ariel, you guys are just crushing it. You're doing such a good job of that. And I just love to associate myself with you. So thank you guys for the tips and the nuggets. And if people want to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with you?
They just call Ariel at any time, day or night.
Let's just drop her phone number right now, Ariel.
A few ways. Ariel at dentalnachos.com or dentalnachos.com, our website. Ariel's awesome at doing a lot of my intake, and she tells people she tries to keep me sane, which is an impossible job. So Ariel at dentalnachos.com or dentalnachos.com. People can reach out to me at Paul at dentalnachos.com. I do believe, and it's a topic for a future podcast, but the most intake we get is on Facebook. And I mean, Facebook's just done just sort of an amazing thing with just becoming the way to connect people. So, we answer our Facebook messages routinely. So that's the best way. And, we love face-to-face events. We can't wait to have you back in Philadelphia, Karen, come back and see you. I kind of think it's just great to have these things on the calendar where, you get to go see your friends face-to-face. And even if it's just once a year on either end, it's just meaningful because, it's just so much different when you see people's body language, their energy, and just hang out. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Oh, likewise. Thank you so much. And I will give a plug for Paul. Paul is probably one of the very best, if not the best, networkers and connectors that I've ever met. You mentioned something and Paul, he'll walk you over to somebody, introduce you to so-and-so, or he'll say, oh, I know this person. So Paul, you have done a great job of building that network. So guys, reach out to Paul. Also, if you just want to giggle that he literally puts Dental Nacho stickers on his baby's head as soon as they're born. Like those things are really funny to me.
Gotta give it the program. You're part of the team. They're slacking off 2 minutes into Earth.
Seriously, get on the team already. I was talking to somebody after our event, and she said, I literally only clicked on his profile because I thought, what is Dental Nachos? So good job on having like a totally crazy name. It's working. But you guys, thank you so much for taking time. I really appreciate it. Appreciate all you're doing as well for the dental world. And we'll catch you guys next time.
Have a great day.
Thanks, Kira.
Thank you. All right, Dental A-Team listeners, that wraps up another episode, and I'll catch you next time on the Dental A-Team podcast. And that wraps it up for another episode of the Dental A-Team podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.